The space station floated quietly at the edge of the Zephyrian Empire's territory. Inside, Commander Vextor watched his screens with all four of his eyes. Nothing exciting ever happened at Border Station 9. The job was simple. Watch for ships. Report anything unusual. Go home after 6 months. But tonight was different. The alarm started screaming at exactly 0347 Galactic Standard Time. Vextor jumped from his rest pod, his blue skin turning pale green with shock. The readings on his screen made no sense. Something huge had just appeared in space only 50,000 kilometers away. That was impossible. Nothing could get that close without being detected hours before. "Sir, the quantum barriers show no breach," his assistant said, her voice shaking. "Whatever that thing is, it didn't come through normal space." Vextor stared at the data. The object was massive, almost 800 meters long. It was made of metals his scanners couldn't identify. Energy readings showed power levels that matched a small moon. And most disturbing of all, it was clearly a ship. A warship based on what looked like weapon ports along its hull. "Send a priority message to the fleet," Vextor ordered. "Tell them we have an unknown vessel in Sector 7. On the bridge of the USS Defiant." Captain Jack Morrison gripped his command chair as another wave of nausea hit him. The experimental jump drive had done something wrong. Very wrong. They were supposed to arrive at Proxima Centauri, just 4 light-years from Earth. Instead, the stars outside looked completely foreign. "Report," Jack managed to say, fighting down his sick feeling. Lieutenant Amy Foster looked up from her station, her face pale but determined. "Captain, I can't find any familiar star patterns. The navigation computer is completely lost. We're picking up artificial signals from multiple sources, but nothing matches our databases." Jack stood up slowly, his legs still shaky from the rough transit. The Defiant carried 200 souls, all volunteers who knew this mission might be one way. They were supposed to be humanity's first step to the stars. Now they were lost, and he had to keep them alive. "How's the ship?" he asked. "Hull integrity is good, but the jump drive is completely fried," Chief Engineer Sam Cooper reported over the comm. "Whatever happened during transit, it melted half the control circuits. We're not jumping anywhere for a long time." Jack nodded. They were stuck here wherever here was. "Amy, what about those signals you mentioned?" "They're everywhere, Captain. Radio, laser comm, even some quantum entanglement signals our equipment can barely detect. This area of space is full of advanced technology." "Alien technology," Jack said quietly. Every person on the bridge understood what that meant. Humanity had always wondered if we were alone. Now they had their answer, and they were far from home with no backup. "Captain, I'm detecting multiple objects moving toward our position," Amy announced. "They'll be here in approximately 3 hours. Jack took a deep breath. This was it. First contact with an alien civilization, and humanity's representatives were one damaged ship with scared crew members. "All stop. Raise shields but keep weapons powered down. We don't want to look hostile." In the Imperial Palace on Zephyria Prime, Emperor Caldra stood before a holographic display showing Sector 7. His advisors had gathered in the middle of the night, their faces showing confusion and fear. The mysterious ship had appeared in one of their most important regions, near the factories that built half their fleet. "How did it get past our sensors?" the Emperor demanded. "We don't know, Your Majesty," admitted the Science Minister. "The ship simply appeared. No hyperspace window, no warp signature. Nothing our technology can explain." The Emperor's scaled skin shifted colors, showing his anxiety. The Zephyrian Empire controlled 12 star systems and commanded respect from every known civilization. But this unknown vessel represented something they couldn't understand or predict. "What do we know about it?" Caldris asked. "The hull is made from unknown alloys. The power signature suggests they've mastered controlled antimatter reactions, something our scientists say is theoretically possible but insanely dangerous. And the beings aboard appear to be a species we've never encountered." Admiral Zexmar stepped forward. "Your Majesty, I've dispatched 30 warships to intercept. They'll maintain safe distance and attempt communication." The emergency session of the Galactic Council began 2 hours later. 12 different alien species joined the virtual meeting, their holographic forms filling the council chamber. The news of the mysterious ship had spread fast, and everyone was worried. This vessel appeared without using any hyperlane, the Quellian ambassador said, her tentacles moving nervously. If they have such technology, they could appear anywhere. Our defenses are useless. We don't know their intentions, argued the Morvac representative. They might be peaceful explorers. Peaceful explorers don't fly warships, countered the Jiraki delegate. Look at those weapon ports. This is clearly a military vessel. Back on the Defiant, the crew prepared for contact. Dr. Lisa Chen, the ship's xenobiologist and diplomatic officer, reviewed everything they knew about first contact protocols. The problem was, all their theories assumed they would be the ones discovering a less advanced civilization, not the other way around. Captain, I've prepared greeting messages in mathematical sequences, prime numbers, and basic physics constants, Lisa reported. If they're intelligent, they should recognize we're trying to communicate. Jack watched the tactical display as 30 alien vessels took positions around them. They had stopped at about 10,000 kilometers, weapons powered but not aimed directly at the Defiant. It was a careful balance ready for either peace or war. They're being cautious, Jack observed. That's good. Cautious beings don't shoot first. Captain, they're sending signals, Tony Rodriguez announced from the communication station. Multiple frequencies. Looks like they're trying to establish contact. Let Dr. Chen handle the response. Nice and slow, people. We're representing all of humanity here. The Zephyrian Fleet Commander, Admiral Zexmar, watched the alien vessel on his screen. It hadn't made any aggressive moves, which was encouraging. When it began responding to their communication attempts with mathematical sequences, he felt some of his tension ease. They understand we're trying to talk, he told his bridge crew. Continue the sequence. Let's see if we can establish basic communication. Within hours, the two sides had built a simple translation matrix. The aliens called themselves humans, from a planet called Earth. They claimed their arrival was accidental, their jump drive damaged. They said they were explorers, not invaders. But Zexmar noticed troubling details in their ship scans. The weapon systems, while currently inactive, showed power readings beyond anything in the Zephyrian fleet. The hull bore scars from what looked like dozens of battles. These humans might claim to be peaceful, but their ship told a different story. Emperor Caldris reviewed the reports with growing concern. An unknown species with technology that could bypass their defenses, appearing in their space without warning. The tactical implications were terrifying. If these humans had a fleet of such ships, the balance of power in the galaxy could shift overnight. Double our border patrols, he ordered, and send a message to these humans. Tell them we welcome peaceful contact, but any aggressive action will be met with the full force of the Empire. The message was received on the Defiance Bridge. Jack, read it carefully, understanding the fear behind the formal words. They were scared of humanity, and maybe they had good reason to be. The Defiant was just one ship, but it carried weapons that could crack small moons. What would these aliens think if they knew Earth had 10,000 more ships under construction? Send a reply, Jack told Lisa. Tell them we appreciate their welcome. We mean no harm and only seek peaceful contact and perhaps assistance in repairing our ship. As the first day ended, both sides watched each other carefully. The humans were lost, far from home, facing a galaxy full of unknown dangers. The Zephyrians and their allies faced something perhaps more frightening, a species that had appeared from nowhere with technology they didn't understand. The standoff had begun. Neither side wanted war, but neither could afford to appear weak. The future of human-alien relations would be decided in the next few days, and everyone involved knew that one wrong move could lead to disaster. Jack stood at the window, looking out at the alien fleet surrounding them. Somewhere among those stars was Earth, impossibly far away. They were alone out here, 200 humans facing the unknown, but they would face it together and they would make humanity proud. The first contact between humans and the galactic community had begun, and nothing would ever be the same again. Commander Lisa Chen floated in zero gravity in the Defiance Communication Center. She had turned off the artificial gravity to help her think more clearly. Something about floating free helped her mind work through complex problems. And right. Now she faced the most complex problem of her life. The alien ships had been talking to them for 3 days now. The translation program was getting better every hour. What started as simple math had grown into basic words, then simple sentences. The aliens called themselves Zephyrians, and they seemed both curious and terrified of the humans. "Captain, I think we're ready for video communication," Lisa reported to the bridge. "The translation isn't perfect, but we can understand each other well enough." Jack's voice came through the comm. "Are you sure we're ready for this? Once they see us, there's no taking it back." "We have to try, sir. They're getting nervous. Their fleet has grown to 50 ships now. If we don't show them we're willing to talk face to face, they might decide we're hiding something." Jack was quiet for a moment. "All right, Dr. Chen. Set it up. Full diplomatic protocols." On the Zephyrian flagship, Admiral Zexmar prepared his bridge for the first visual contact with the humans. His crew was nervous. No one knew what these humans looked like. Would they be giant insects? Energy beings? Something beyond their understanding? "Remember, show no fear or surprise," Zexmar told his officers. "Whatever they look like, we treat them with respect." The screen flickered to life. The image that appeared caused every Zephyrian on the bridge to stop breathing. The human looked almost exactly like an Anthari. Zexmar had seen pictures of the Anthari in history files. They were legends, warriors who had conquered a third of the galaxy 3,000 years ago before vanishing mysteriously. They walked on 2 legs, had 2 arms, 1 head with 2 eyes. The human on the screen had the same basic shape, though smaller and without the bone ridges the Anthari were famous for. "Greetings," the human said. The translator turned her words into Zephyrian. "I am Dr. Lisa Chen, diplomatic officer of the USS Defiant. We come in peace." Zexmar forced himself to respond calmly. "Greetings, Dr. Chen. I am Admiral Zexmar of the Zephyrian Imperial Fleet. Your arrival has surprised us." Lisa smiled, not knowing that her expression reminded every Zephyrian of ancient warnings about Anthari battle grins. "We're pretty surprised too, Admiral. We didn't expect to find anyone out here. Our jump drive malfunctioned and brought us to your space by accident." "You say this was accidental?" Zexmar asked carefully. "Completely. We were trying to reach another star near our home. Something went wrong, and we ended up here instead. We're lost, Admiral. We don't even know where Earth is from here." The conversation continued for hours. Lisa explained about humanity, their home planet, their first steps into space. She talked about their peaceful intentions, their desire to explore and learn. The Zephyrians listened, fascinated and frightened in equal measure. In the Imperial Palace, Emperor Caldrus watched the conversation with his advisors. The similarity to the Anthari was impossible to ignore. "Could they be Anthari descendants?" asked the history minister. "The Anthari vanished completely. No one knows what happened to them," replied the science minister. "But the physical similarity is disturbing." "Look at their technology," added the war minister. "The Anthari were known for impossible weapons, for ships that could appear anywhere. These humans arrived the same way." Emperor Caldrus raised a hand for silence. "We need more information. Admiral Zexmar, invite their captain to speak with me directly." Captain Jack Morrison straightened his uniform before the camera turned. He had watched Lisa's conversation and knew the aliens were nervous. Something about human appearance had shocked them, though he didn't understand why. "Emperor Caldrus," Jack said with a slight bow. "It's an honor to speak with you." The Emperor studied the human carefully. This one was larger than the female they had spoken to first, with broader shoulders and a harder face. He looked like a warrior despite his peaceful words. "Captain Morrison, your arrival has created quite a situation," the Emperor said. "You must understand our concern. A warship with unknown technology appears in our space without warning." "I understand completely, Your Majesty. In your position, I'd be concerned too. But I give you my word as an officer and a human being. We mean no harm to your empire or any other civilization. Tell me about your weapons, Captain." Jack hesitated. This was dangerous ground. "The Defiant is an exploration vessel, But yes, we carry weapons for defense. Space can be dangerous even in our own system. Our scans suggest your weapons are quite powerful. They're sufficient for our needs, Jack said carefully. But as you can see, we haven't activated them. We're not here to fight. The Emperor leaned forward. Captain, I'm going to be direct with you. Your species bears a striking resemblance to an ancient race called the Anthari. They were warriors who conquered much of the galaxy before disappearing. You can understand why this concerns us. Jack kept his face neutral, though his mind was racing. An ancient race that looked like humans. Your Majesty, I can only tell you what I know. Humans evolved on Earth. We have no knowledge of these Anthari or any connection to them. Meanwhile, Tony Rodriguez was working with the Zephyrian communication officers to improve their translation systems. The alien technology was fascinating, based on quantum principles that Earth scientists had only theorized about. Your learning speed is remarkable, commented Sub-Commander Veltrix. Our linguists usually take months to build a translation matrix this complex. Tony shrugged. Humans are good at patterns. Our brains evolved for it. We see patterns in everything, even when they're not there. This comment was reported back to the Zephyrian scientists, who found it deeply disturbing. Pattern recognition at this level was exactly what had made the Anthari such formidable opponents. They could predict enemy force, adapt to new tactics instantly, find weaknesses in any defense. On the Defiant, the crew was growing restless. They had been surrounded by alien warships for almost a week now. The peaceful talks were encouraging, but everyone could see the weapons pointed at them. How long do we keep this up, Captain? Asked Lieutenant Commander Paul Davis. They're not going to let us leave, are they? Not until they're sure we're not a threat, Jack replied. We need to be patient. This is bigger than just us. We're establishing humanity's reputation with an entire galactic civilization. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Amy Foster had been monitoring Zephyrian news broadcasts, using the improved translator to understand their media. She discovered something important. Captain, you need to see this, she said, putting a broadcast on the main screen. It showed a Zephyrian news program discussing something called the Ravager threat. These Ravagers were apparently nomadic warriors who had been attacking the Empire's borders for decades. The broadcast showed footage of destroyed colonies, refugee ships, crying Zephyrian children. They're at war, Jack said quietly. They're terrified of us because they're already fighting someone else. It explains the heavy military presence, Lisa agreed. They can't afford another enemy. Jack made a decision. Open a channel to Admiral Zexmar. When the Admiral appeared on screen, Jack spoke directly. Admiral, we've been monitoring your news broadcasts. We know about the Ravagers. Zexmar's four eyes widened. You've been listening to our civilian channels? We're trying to understand you, to learn about your civilization. Admiral, we know you're fighting a war. We understand why you're suspicious of us. But maybe we can help each other. What do you mean? We're alone out here, one ship far from home. You're fighting an enemy that threatens your people. Perhaps we could work together. An exchange of information, maybe even mutual defense. The Admiral was quiet for a long moment. I'll need to discuss this with the Emperor. The proposal sparked intense debate in the Imperial Council. Some saw it as an opportunity to gain access to human technology. Others worried it was a trap, a way for the humans to infiltrate their defenses. What if we're wrong about them? Asked the Peace Minister. What if they really are just explorers who got lost? Then we gain an ally with technology we don't understand, replied the War Minister. That's almost as dangerous as an enemy. Emperor Caldrus made his decision. We'll continue talks, but increase surveillance on their ship. I want to know everything about these humans before we make any agreements. Back on the Defiant, Lisa was making her own discovery. The Zephyrian database they had been given for translation purposes contained historical references. Most were locked, but some general. Information was available. She found references to the Anthari and started reading. The similarities were unsettling. Bipedal, similar size, incredible adaptability. The Anthari had been known for their ability to reverse engineer any technology. to adapt to any threat. They had disappeared suddenly, leaving only ruins and mysteries. "Captain, you need to see this," Lisa called. Jack read the files, his face growing more serious with each page. "If they think we're related to these Anthari, no wonder they're terrified." "There's more, sir. The last known Anthari ruins are in a sector that, based on stellar positions, might be near Earth's location. It's hard to tell with their star charts, but the general direction matches." The archaeological dig on Kepler had been abandoned for 20 years. The ancient Anthari ruins were considered fully explored, their secrets catalogued and filed away in the Imperial archives. But Dr. Kezara, a young Zephyrian archaeologist, had received permission to conduct one final survey before the site was permanently sealed. She was deep in the lower chambers when her scanner detected something unusual. Behind what appeared to be a solid wall was an empty space, a hidden room that previous surveys had missed. It took her 3 hours to find the opening mechanism. When the wall finally slid aside, she gasped. The room was filled with star charts, preserved in crystal matrices that had survived 3,000 years. But these weren't just any star charts. They showed the Anthari Empire at its peak, including the location of their homeworld. Kezara's 4 hands shook as she activated her communication device. "Priority message to the Imperial Archives. I found something extraordinary." On the USS Defiant, Jake Harrison was having his own moment of discovery. The ship's historian had been granted limited access to Zephyrian historical databases as part of the cultural exchange. He was reading about ancient trade routes when he made an innocent comment to his Zephyrian counterpart. "These star positions are fascinating," Jake said over the comlink. "Based on stellar drift calculations, this region here would now be approximately where Earth is located, in what we call the Orion arm of the Milky Way galaxy." The Zephyrian historian Velgan went completely silent. Then, "Please repeat those coordinates, Dr. Harrison." Jake sent the data, not understanding why Velgan seemed so shocked. On the other end, the Zephyrian was comparing Jake's coordinates with the newest discovery from Kepler. They matched perfectly. The human homeworld was in exactly the same location as ancient Anthara, the lost homeworld of the galaxy's most feared warriors. Within hours, Emperor Caldrus had called an emergency session. The evidence was undeniable. The humans came from the same region of space where the Anthari had originated. The physical similarities, the technological capabilities, the adaptability, it all pointed to one conclusion. "They are the Anthari," the war minister stated flatly. "They've returned." "But they claim no knowledge of the Anthari," argued the science minister. "How could they forget their own history? 3,000 years is a long time," the emperor said thoughtfully. "Perhaps something happened to them. A disaster that destroyed their civilization, forcing them to start over." "Or perhaps they're lying," suggested the intelligence minister. "This could all be an elaborate deception." Admiral Zexmar, who had been called back from his meeting with the humans, spoke up. "Your Majesty, I've spent time with Captain Morrison. If he's lying, he's the best actor I've ever seen. I believe the humans genuinely don't know about their connection to the Anthari." "That might make them more dangerous, not less," the Emperor replied. "If they've forgotten their past, they might repeat it." The debate was interrupted by an urgent military alert. Every warning system in the Empire started screaming at once. A massive fleet had just appeared at the edge of Sector 7. The Ravagers had come. On the Defiance Bridge, alarms started blaring. Amy Foster's face went pale as she read her instruments. "Captain, I'm detecting over 300 ships dropping out of hyperspace. Energy signatures match those Ravager vessels from the news broadcasts." Jack stood up quickly. "Battle stations. Where are they heading?" "Straight for the industrial worlds in this sector. Captain, the Zephyrian fleet is moving to intercept, but they're outnumbered 3-1. Jack watched the tactical display as the Zephyrian ships formed defensive lines. 50 ships against 300. It would be a massacre. "Captain," Paul Davis said quietly, "this isn't our fight." Jack turned to look at his tactical officer. "Isn't it? We've been sitting here for 2 weeks trying to convince these people we're not a threat. Now they're about to be slaughtered, protecting their civilians." "We're one ship, sir. What can we do against 300? Jack was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then he turned to the comm station. Tony, open a channel to Admiral Zexmar. The Admiral appeared on screen, his blue, skin dark with stress. Captain Morrison, we're a bit busy right now. Admiral, we want to help. Zexmar's 4 eyes blinked in surprise. Captain, you should leave. Take your ship and run. The Ravagers don't know about you. You could escape. We don't run from bullies, Admiral. The Defiant is a warship. Let us help. Captain, I appreciate the offer, but one ship won't make a difference. Jack smiled, and for the first time, Zexmar understood why the Anthari battle grin had been so feared. Admiral, you might be surprised what one human ship can do. Send us your tactical data. Let us coordinate with your fleet. The Ravager fleet commander, Warlord Grak, laughed as he watched the Zephyrian ships form their pathetic defense line. The Empire had grown soft, relying on technology and diplomacy instead of strength. Today, they would learn the price of weakness. All ships attack pattern Sigma, he ordered. Destroy the defenders and take the industrial worlds. The Empire's factories will build ships for us now. The Ravager fleet surged forward, weapons charging. They had won dozens of battles with these tactics, overwhelming enemies with numbers and ferocity. They expected this battle to be no different. They were wrong. The USS Defiant accelerated to speeds that made the watching aliens gasp. The human ship's inertial dampeners, based on principles the other races had never discovered, allowed it to pull maneuvers that should have torn any vessel apart. Target locked on lead ship, Paul reported. Railguns ready. Fire, Jack ordered. The tungsten projectiles, accelerated to 20% of light speed, crossed the distance to the Ravager flagship in seconds. The kinetic energy release was devastating. The flagship's shields, designed to stop energy weapons, were useless against simple physics. The projectiles punched through the hull like it was paper, and the flagship exploded in a ball of superheated gas. Before the Ravagers could react, the Defiant had already changed position, launching a spread of conventional missiles at their left flank. The missiles were primitive by galactic standards, chemical rockets with nuclear warheads. But the Ravagers had never faced them before. Their point defense systems, calibrated for energy weapons and plasma torpedoes, couldn't track the physical projectiles properly. 12 Ravager ships vanished in nuclear fire. Captain, they're trying to adapt their shields, Amy reported. Should we switch tactics? No need, Jack said calmly. Paul, deploy the antimatter torpedoes. Target their center mass. The 12 antimatter torpedoes launched silently. Each one contained only a gram of antimatter, but when matter and antimatter met, the energy release was absolute. The torpedoes found their targets, and reality seemed to tear apart. The explosions were visible from the planet's surface, brief new stars that lived and died in seconds. 40 more Ravager ships ceased to exist. Warlord Grak screamed orders, trying to restore order to his fleet. But the human ship was everywhere, and nowhere, appearing just long enough to unleash devastation before vanishing again. His tactical computers couldn't predict its movements. Every time they thought they had a firing solution, the ship was already gone. All ships, random evasive patterns, he ordered. Don't let them predict our movements. But Lisa Chen was monitoring their communications, her brain's pattern recognition abilities allowing her to understand their language almost instantly. Captain, they're going to scatter and try random movements. Perfect, Jack said. They're breaking formation. Paul, target their command ships. Without leadership, they'll panic. The Defiant carved through the Ravager fleet like a surgeon's knife. Every shot was precisely placed, every movement calculated. The humans had learned warfare through thousands of years of killing each other, and they had gotten very, very good at it. Admiral Zexmar watched in horrified awe. His fleet had barely fired a shot. The single human ship was destroying the Ravager invasion by itself. But it wasn't just the weapons that terrified him. It was the efficiency, the cold precision of it. The humans fought like they were playing a game they had played 1,000 times before. Admiral, should we assist? His weapons officer asked. Stay in formation, Zexmar ordered. Don't get between the humans and their prey. On the Defiant, Sam Cooper was performing miracles in engineering. The ship's systems were being pushed beyond their limits, but he kept them running through skill and determination. "Captain, I can give you maybe 10 more minutes at this pace before something breaks." "Understood," Jack replied. Then to Paul, "Time to end this. All remaining weapons, fire at will." The Defiant unleashed everything it had left: railguns, missiles, even their experimental plasma cannons. The space around the Ravager fleet turned into a shooting gallery. Ships tried to flee, but found the human vessel somehow anticipated their escape routes. In 12 minutes it was over. 300 Ravager ships had been reduced to 60 crippled vessels fleeing in disorder. The invasion force that had terrorized the Empire's borders for decades had been broken by a single human ship. The bridge of the Defiant was silent. The crew stared at their screens, hardly believing what they had just done. They had trained for combat, but this was their first real battle, and they had won. Completely. "Damage report," Jack said quietly. The Ravager warlord Grak stood on the bridge of his new flagship, watching his fleet prepare for the assault. 300 ships, the largest Ravager force ever assembled. For 10 years, he had united the scattered Ravager clans under his banner, promising them wealth and glory. Today he would deliver both. "The Zephyrians have grown weak," he announced to his commanders through the fleet comm. "They hide behind their technology and treaties while we grow stronger through battle. Today, we take their industrial worlds. Tomorrow, their empire falls." His warriors roared their approval. The Ravagers lived for combat, for the thrill of victory and plunder. They had been raiding the Empire's borders for decades, but always in small groups. Now united, they were unstoppable. "Warlord, the Zephyrian fleet is forming defensive positions," his sensor operator reported. "Only 50 ships, and there's something else, a ship we don't recognize. It's not Zephyrian design." Grak studied the scan data. The unknown vessel was smaller than most warships, with an unusual hull configuration. "One strange ship makes no difference. All units begin the attack. Show no mercy." On the USS Defiant, Paul Davis finished his tactical analysis. "Captain, I've identified their command structure. The Ravagers use a hierarchical system. If we take out their command ships, the smaller units will lose coordination." "How many command ships?" Jack asked. "Based on their formation, I count 12 primary command vessels and maybe 30 secondary commanders." Jack nodded, his mind already forming a battle plan. The Ravagers were using tactics from Earth's ancient naval battles, massing ships for maximum firepower. But space wasn't an ocean. 3 dimensions changed everything. "Sam, can you overclock the engines?" Jack asked the chief engineer. "For maybe 15 minutes, Captain. After that, we'll start melting things we need." 15 minutes should be enough. "Amy, plot escape vectors for the Zephyrian industrial platforms. If this goes badly, we need to evacuate civilians." "Already done, sir. But Captain, there are 12 million people on those platforms." Jack's jaw tightened. 12 million lives, the population of a major Earth city. "Then we better make sure this goes well. All hands prepare for maximum combat maneuvers. Admiral." Zexmar watched the human ship accelerate toward the Ravager fleet. Part of him wanted to order them back to protect them. But another part, the soldier in him, was curious. The humans claimed to be peaceful explorers, but their ship was built for war. Now he would see which was true. "Admiral, should we advance to support them?" his second-in-command asked. "Negative. Maintain defensive positions around the platforms. Let's see what one human ship can do." The first indication the Ravagers had that something was wrong came when their sensors lost track of the human ship. It was there one moment, gone the next, moving at speeds their targeting computers couldn't process. Where did it go? Grak demanded. The answer came in the form of his flagship exploding. The tungsten railgun rounds hit with the force of atomic bombs, purely from kinetic energy. The flagship's shields, designed to disperse energy weapons, couldn't stop simple chunks of metal moving at relativistic speeds. Grak's last thought before he died was that this was impossible. Paul Davis selected targets with mechanical precision. Command Ship 2 eliminated. Command Ship 3 eliminated, switching to missile barrage. The nuclear missiles were crude by galactic standards. Chemical rockets with fusion warheads, technology the other races had abandoned centuries ago. for more elegant energy weapons. But the Ravagers had never faced them. Their point defense lasers, calibrated for plasma torpedoes, couldn't track the physical projectiles properly. 12 ships vanished in nuclear fire, their crews never understanding what hit them. "They're adapting," Amy reported, "switching shield frequencies to try blocking kinetic weapons." "Won't help them," Paul said with grim satisfaction. "Captain, permission to use the antimatter torpedoes?" "Granted. Make them count." Each antimatter torpedo contained only a gram of antimatter, held in magnetic suspension. But when that gram met normal matter, the energy release was equal to a large nuclear weapon. And unlike nuclear explosions, which wasted energy in all directions, the torpedoes were shaped charges, directing most of the blast forward into their targets. The space around the Ravager fleet turned into a series of new suns. Ships didn't just explode, they ceased to exist, converted entirely to energy. The surviving Ravagers tried to scatter, but the human ships seemed to be everywhere at once. Sub-Commander Krex had taken command of the Ravager fleet after Grak's death. He was a veteran of 50 raids, but nothing had prepared him for this. The human ship fought like a demon, like death itself. Every time they thought they had it targeted, it was already gone, leaving only destruction in its wake. "All ships, random evasive patterns," he ordered desperately. "Don't let them predict our movements." But Lisa Chen was monitoring their communications, her brain decoding their language in real time. "Captain, they're going to scatter. They're panicking." "Good," Jack said coldly. "Panicked enemies make mistakes. Paul, target their engine clusters. I want them disabled, not destroyed. Let's give them something to think about." The Defiant's plasma cannons, experimental weapons that Sam Cooper had spent 2 years perfecting, fired for the first time in real combat. The beams of superheated matter cut through Ravager ships like a welding torch through tin foil. But true to Jack's orders, Paul targeted engines and weapons, not crew compartments. 40 Ravager ships found themselves drifting helplessly, unable to fight or flee. "Why aren't they destroying us?" one Ravager captain asked over the comm. "They're showing us mercy." Krex realized with shock. They could kill us all, but they're choosing not to. This realization spread through the Ravager fleet like wildfire. The humans weren't just winning, they were holding back. The most frightening thing wasn't their weapons or tactics, it was their restraint. They fought with the precision of machines, but the mercy of something far more dangerous. Beings who understood war so well they could choose when not to kill. On the Zephyrian flagship, Admiral Zexmar's crew watched in stunned silence. They had been prepared to die defending their worlds, to sell their lives dearly against overwhelming odds. Instead, they were watching a single alien ship dismantle the Ravager fleet with surgical precision. "Admiral, they're not killing all of them," the weapons officer observed. "They're disabling ships when they could destroy them." "I see it," Zexmar said quietly. "They're sending a message, not just to the Ravagers, but to us. To everyone watching, the message was clear. Humans could destroy you utterly, but they might choose not to. They were neither mindless killers nor helpless pacifists. They were something far more complex. Sam Cooper's voice crackled over the Defiant's intercom. "Captain, I'm reading stress fractures in the main reactor housing. We need to reduce speed now or we'll have a containment breach." "Understood," Jack replied. "Paul, status on enemy fleet?" 60 ships destroyed, 40 disabled, 30 fled the battle zone. The rest are requesting surrender. Jack allowed himself a small smile. In 14 minutes, they had broken the largest Ravager fleet ever assembled. "Amy, open a channel to the surrendering ships." Krex's face appeared on the screen. The Ravager looked defeated, his scaled face showing emotions that his species rarely displayed, fear and respect. "Human vessel, we surrender," Krex said. "You have proven your superiority. We ask for mercy." "You attacked civilian targets," Jack said sternly. 12 million innocent lives were threatened by your actions. "It is the way of the Ravagers. The strong take from the weak." "Then learn a new way," Jack replied. "The strong protect the weak. You will surrender to the Zephyrian fleet, You will stand trial for your crimes, but you will live because humans believe in justice, not slaughter. The channel closed and Jack turned to his crew. They looked exhausted but proud. They had just changed the course of galactic history and they knew it. "Captain," Tony said from the comm station, "we're receiving a transmission from Emperor Caldrus." The Emperor's image appeared, his reptilian features showing a mix of gratitude and fear. "Captain Morrison, the Zephyrian Empire owes you a debt we can never repay. You saved millions of our citizens." "We did what was right, Your Majesty." "Yes, you did. And that terrifies me more than if you had conquered us." "Captain, the Galactic Council is convening an emergency session. Your actions today will be discussed by every civilization in known space." Jack understood the implications. Humanity had just announced itself as a military superpower. Every species would now be asking the same question. Were humans friends or future conquerors? The news of the battle spread across the galaxy within hours. On the resort world of Paxia, tourists watched news feeds in disbelief. On the scholar planet of Quell, academics debated the implications of human technology. On the fortress world of Jarek, military strategists analyzed every second of battle footage, trying to understand human tactics. But the most intense discussions were happening in secret. Intelligence agencies across 12 civilizations were updating their threat assessments. The humans claimed to have 10,000 ships. If that was true, and if each ship was as capable as the Defiant, then humanity could conquer the entire galaxy. Back on the Defiant, Lisa was studying the surrendered Ravager ships. The Galactic Council chamber existed in both physical and virtual space. Representatives from 12 major civilizations gathered, some in person on the neutral station at the galaxy's center, others attending through quantum-entangled holograms. The chamber itself was a marvel of engineering, adapting its atmosphere and gravity to accommodate each species simultaneously. Emperor Caldrus of the Zephyrian Empire stood at the speaker's platform, his scales shifting through colors of authority. Around him sat the most powerful beings in known space, the insectoid Quellians, the energy-based Luminari, the ancient machine intelligence of the collective, and others, all focused on one topic: humanity. "The evidence is clear," Caldrus began. "The humans possess technology that allowed them to appear in our space without detection. Their single damaged ship destroyed the largest Ravager fleet ever assembled. They claim to have 10,000 more vessels. The question before us is not whether they are powerful, but what we do about it." The Sentinel Adjudicator, a being of pure thought housed in a crystalline matrix, pulsed with cold light. "The historical precedent is clear. The Anthari, conquered through superior technology and adaptability. The humans show the same traits. They must be contained before history repeats." "You suggest we attack them?" asked Ambassador Vree of the Quellians, her compound eyes reflecting worry. "We don't even know where their homeworld is located." "They know where we are," countered War Master Jarek. "They could strike anywhere, anytime. This is an intolerable strategic disadvantage." On the USS Defiant, Captain Jack Morrison watched the council session through a diplomatic feed. The Zephyrians had arranged for humanity to observe, but not participate. Not yet. Lisa Chen sat beside him, translating the nuances of alien body language and vocal patterns. "They're scared," she said quietly. "Every species in that room is terrified of us." "Good," Paul Davis muttered from across the bridge. "Fear means respect. Fear also means they might try to destroy us," Jack reminded him. "We need to change the narrative. Tony, can you open a private channel to Emperor Caldrus?" The Emperor's image appeared on a secondary screen, his 4 eyes showing surprise. "Captain Morrison, this is unexpected. Your Majesty, I have a proposal. Let me address the Council. Let humanity speak for itself. That's highly irregular. You're not a member species. We just saved 12 million Zephyrian lives. I think we've earned the right to be heard." Caldrus was quiet for a moment, then nodded. "I'll propose it, be ready." The debate in the council chamber intensified. The Morvac delegation argued for immediate military action. The Paxians called for diplomatic engagement. The ancient librarians, who rarely spoke at all, simply observed and recorded. Then, Emperor E. Caldris made his proposal. Before we decide humanity's fate, perhaps we should hear from them directly. Absolutely not, the Sentinel Adjudicator declared. They are subjects of judgment, not participants in it. They saved my people, Caldris said firmly. They showed mercy to enemies who would have shown none. Does that not earn them the right to speak? The vote was close. 7 in favor, 5 against. The majority ruled. Jack materialized in the council chamber as a hologram, standing at the center where all could see him. He had chosen to wear his dress uniform, formal but not aggressive. He looked around the room, meeting the gaze or equivalent sensory organs of each representative. Distinguished representatives, he began. I am Captain Jack Morrison of the United Earthship Defiant. I speak not just for my crew but for all humanity. We come before you not as conquerors but as neighbors. Neighbors with antimatter weapons, War Master Jarek interrupted. Yes, Jack admitted freely. We have weapons. We developed them because our history taught us that the universe can be dangerous. But we also have medicine, art, science, and dreams of exploration. We are not one thing. No species is. The Quellian ambassador's translator hummed. You claim 10,000 ships. Why does a peaceful species need such a fleet? Jack had expected this question. We don't have 10,000 warships. We have colony ships, research vessels, mining craft, and yes, some military vessels. We're expanding into our own solar system and nearby stars. The Defiant is one of only 100 true warships, and it's our most advanced. This revelation caused murmurs throughout the chamber. The threat of 10,000 warships suddenly became much less terrifying. You lied? The Sentinel Adjudicator accused. We never claimed 10,000 warships, Jack replied calmly. That was your assumption. But let me be clear about something. Those 100 warships, each one is as capable as the Defiant. And if threatened, every human ship can be armed. We're not helpless, but we're not the existential threat you imagine. Emperor Caldris leaned forward. Captain, the real issue is your connection to the Anthari. The evidence is compelling. Jack nodded. He had discussed this with Lisa and the senior staff. Honesty was their only option. We've seen your evidence. It's possible some Anthari survivors reached Earth 3,000 years ago. But if they did, they left no records, no technology, no memory of their origins. We developed our own civilization, made our own mistakes, learned our own lessons. Yet you fight like them, observed the librarian, speaking for the first time in decades. Your tactical patterns, your adaptability, your efficiency. It mirrors historical accounts perfectly. Maybe because there are only so many ways to fight, effectively in space, Jack suggested. Or maybe because whatever made the Anthari successful warriors is still in our genes, but we're not them. We're something new. Prove it, the Sentinel Adjudicator demanded. The Anthari conquered. Show us you're different. Jack smiled slightly. We just did. We could have destroyed every Ravager ship, but we chose to disable many instead. We could have demanded payment for our help, but we didn't. We could have kept our technology secret, but we're willing to share. Not our weapons, but our medical knowledge, our agricultural techniques, our art and music. Ambassador Vree chittered thoughtfully. You would share technology? Selected technology, with peaceful applications. We're particularly proud of our medical advances. We've learned to repair genetic damage, cure diseases that plagued us for millennia. We'd be honored to share this knowledge. This changed the entire dynamic of the discussion. Suddenly, humanity wasn't just a threat, but a potential resource. Sam, Cooper had been working with the Zephyrian engineers to demonstrate human technology. He appeared beside Jack's hologram. If I may, Captain? Jack nodded. Sam addressed the council. We've already begun working with the Zephyrians on improving their reactor efficiency. Small changes, but their power output has increased by 12%. Imagine what we could accomplish working together. The Morvac delegate stood, his warrior culture demanding directness. What do you want from us? Peace, Jack said simply. Trade, cultural exchange. the chance to explore and learn. We don't want to conquer or rule. We want to be part of something bigger than ourselves. And if we refuse? The Sentinel Adjudicator asked. If we decide you're too dangerous, Jack's expression hardened. Then you'll make an enemy of a species that doesn't want to be your enemy. We'll defend ourselves, and based on recent evidence, we're very good at that. But that's not what we want. We want to be your allies, your trading partners, your friends. The council recessed for deliberation. Jack returned to the Defiant, where his crew waited anxiously. How did it go? Amy asked. We'll know soon enough, Jack replied, though he felt cautiously optimistic. The deliberations lasted 3 days. During that time, something unexpected happened. The surrendered Ravager fleet, now under Zephyrian guard, requested to speak with the humans. Sub-Commander Krex, who had taken command after Grak's death, made an unprecedented statement. The humans defeated us but showed mercy, Krex announced to anyone who would listen. In Ravager culture, this creates a debt of honor. We pledge ourselves to humanity's service for 1 solar year. This shocked everyone, including the humans. The Ravagers, the galaxy's most feared pirates, were volunteering to serve the species that had defeated them. It was unprecedented and changed many minds about humanity's nature. When the council reconvened, the vote was different than many expected. Emperor Caldrus announced the decision. By a vote of 9-3, the Galactic Council recognizes humanity as a provisional member of the galactic community. Full membership will be granted after a probationary period of 1 standard year. Jack felt relief wash over him. Thank you, distinguished representatives. You won't regret this decision. We hope not, the Sentinel Adjudicator said coldly. Be aware humanity will be watched. Any aggressive action will result in immediate response. Understood and accepted, Jack replied. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of activity. Earth's government, recovering from the shock of first contact happening so dramatically, sent diplomats to establish formal relations. Trade agreements were negotiated. Cultural exchanges were arranged. The Defiant was repaired with a combination of human and Zephyrian technology, making it even more capable than before. It became humanity's first embassy to the stars, with Jack and his crew serving as ambassadors. Lisa Chen worked with xenobiologists from 6 species, sharing knowledge that advanced medical science by decades. Tony Rodriguez helped establish communication protocols that would allow instant